Good morning. Pura Vida. Welcome to this week's Dharma Talk. And we thank you for joining us here at beautiful Bali Rica and on the internet. Please be seated, become comfortable. Take a deep breath. Let go of your cares and concerns. And Lisa Virtue will guide us in the opening meditation.
Thank you. All right, let's close our eyes. Let's begin by witnessing the state of how you are physically. Scanning. And then the state of how you are mentally. And the state of how you are emotionally. And last week, Mark was talking about the vessel. I know Ruthie will be mentioning the vessel again. And here now we have our vessel that we're paying attention to. And in all your scans you just did, feel a sense of how full your vesselness is. And for example, I've been having a few weeks that have too many projects on my plate, and I'm feeling like my vessel is overflowing with the mental, and there isn't space for other stuff. So how spacious or full are you feeling, and what is occupying that space? Now, it changes all the time. And in meditation, we can take a few moments to clear some of the things that maybe we don't really want to be filling our vessel so prominently. And part of how we do that is shifting our focus. So instead of being focused on, in my case, all the mental projects, we're turning all our senses inward to look for that spark, the divine spark within us, that quiet, true self. And we choose this time to allow the rest to fall away, to release our hold on it, our grip on it. To choose that it's okay to be quiet and still. And as we approach that inner being, our vessel empties perhaps of the things that are distracting and fills with peace. Creating a spacious feeling where we then feel like we can handle anything that comes at us because we have space for it. So consciously now choosing to turn inward, dive deep into the center of yourself, allowing the rest to fall away. Release your hold. And feel the release and the good feeling fullness. Or imagine you are surrounded in a field of energy that has all of the qualities that can support you perfectly right now. It's filled with love, acceptance, appreciation of you, anything else that you may be needing in your life. Take a deep breath, breathing it all in, allowing it to absorb in. Exhale the hindrances. Inhale again, breathing it all through your whole being. And with each breath, know that you are allowing more and more of that support to become part of you. And take your palms and rub them together, warming them up. Place them over your closed eyes. And then slowly, as you move your hand slowly away, you're opening your eyelids a bit at a time, gently bringing yourself back into the outer world while maintaining your calm, nurtured presence. Namaste.
Do we
I
have
will,
a chime?
and I will turn the cushion over to Mark
Uh-huh.
to be your
And
co-host.
while they're doing that, let's have a little stretch and a little shake and a little smile and maybe a nice, long, easy sigh. And then we will turn our attention to today's topic, which is the word Dharma, as in welcome to this week's Dharma Talk. What does the word really mean? Everything we do is a Dharma, so this is a word we all sort of accept because we hear it. But a lot of times we don't give it the attention it deserves. So today we're going to do that a little bit. This was inspired by two talks I heard in the last couple of weeks. One was Mark's talk last week, as mentioned, and one was a talk on a program that I like a lot called Buddha at the Gas Pump, which is a lovely name for everyday Buddhism. It's what gets us going. It's what motivates us. It's what drives us. And it is a show of interviews with what the interviewer, a man named Rick Archer, um, calls spiritually awakening people. And the interviews are about 2 hours long. They're long and very thorough. And they cover everything from the psychic to every kind of religion, philosophy, whatever. Anyway, attached to Jeff's talk the week before and Mark's talk the week after this, I thought, it's been a long time since we really investigated what Dharma is. So let me begin by giving you my standard response when asked this question. It's a very satisfactory response. It's substantial in as far as it goes, and it's accurate. But it really is quite shallow. It doesn't cover everything it needs to cover, and that is this. This is how I respond. Dharma is a Sanskrit word. It's Dhamma in Pali. If you look it up in the dictionary, you may be quite surprised at the number of definitions there are. Depending on the dictionary, there can be upwards of 20 definitions for what Dharma is. Let's say truth, justice, laws, paths, procedures, doorways, and on and on. The word as we use it in our Sangha or circle of spiritual friends is defined as the teachings of the Buddha and the practices of Buddhism. Now, another story is that Buddhism is a Western world. In the East, in Asia, there is no word Buddhism. It's all called the Dharma. The Dharma. We don't call it, when we say it, as Buddha Dharma, which is a word. That's the most precise definition for what we do, the smallest definition. And we don't call it Welcome to Buddha Dharma. We call it Welcome to the Dharma, because Buddhism itself is so not exclusive, so inclusive that we simply use Buddhism as a focal point, as our framework for the motivation to cover any and all spiritual affairs that have in any kind of relationship to our core teachings. So that's pretty simple. And everybody says, okay. But now you think about it a little bit more and you say, well, how does this really apply to things other than like our talks, the teachings? And you investigate it and you find out that Dharma is actually such an umbrella word, such a big tent word, that it basically boils down to being the essence of everything. Dharma is not an other. Dharma is and is. Dharma is what is. What is in our life. And it addresses questions such as, who am I? Why am I here? Do I have a purpose in life? What is the meaning of the world as I'm experiencing? A really good definition of Dharma total is lived experience. It's lived experience. It is personal and it is impersonal. We've talked about the fact that when people like the Dalai Lama are trying to explain things of the Dharma, he will often say, like that, like that. Because there is no real vocabulary that is precise enough that everybody gets it exactly. We teach by examples, by illustrations, parables, analogies, and so on and so forth. But let's go to the literal definition. Studying the Dharma would drive anybody who takes religion literally, or listens to the, they can't do it because there's nothing literal here. It's all inference, expansion, giving of yourself, taking in. But the literal definition is interesting. The literal definition is two of them actually. One is, it is something which holds, a holding. This is where the vessel comes in. And the other one is something that is a placing. So it's to receive and hold, it's to put out and place. And those are the literal definitions, and they don't really tell you a whole lot. They just barely get you started. So let's visualize a chair. Here's this little stool or a bench. None of those things are a Dharma. That stool is not a Dharma. That bench is not a Dharma. A chair is not a Dharma. What the stool, the bench, the chair are for, what their purpose is their Dharma. In which case we place our bodies or things on them and they hold them. This is their purpose. The actual physical chair, bench, stool is made up of all non-bench, stool, chair elements. Just wood, nails, and what have you. They have no real inherent importance except for their purpose. And when we talked about the vessel last week, when Mark had his talk on the vessel, one of the examples that he didn't get around to, I know he knows it, but he didn't get around to it, is to see that raft that carries us across is like this chair stool. The raft is not the Dharma. The support and the delivery are the Dharma. Does that make sense? These are the essential things. These are the dharmas of the raft. And this is why when it serves its purpose and takes us to the other side, we can leave it on the shore and it can decay or be picked up by somebody else to be used to go the other way. Whatever happens to it for us at that time is no longer, it has fulfilled its dharma for us. Everybody got that one? When you begin to see the world and yourself through the lens of Dharma, it can really facilitate transformation and transcendence. Has everybody here seen the movie Lost in Translation? Everybody seen it, or has nobody seen it? It's an older movie.
I have not seen it.
You have, or?
Yes, I have.
Okay, you've seen it too?
No.
They have not.
They have not.
All right. Take it from wherever you can find it and watch it as a visualization, a work of art about Dharma. It's a very Dharma drama. And it's the story, I think it won the Academy Award. I know the author did. It's the story of two people who are strangers in a hotel in Tokyo. And Bill Murray is an aging, famous actor. And he is losing his Dharma. He's not so famous anymore. He's not in much demand. He's on the far end. And he's lost. He's doing commercials. He's unhappy. And Scarlett Johansson is a recent graduate of college. And she married a guy who has found his Dharma. He knows what he's doing. And he's fully engaged. And she can't find her Dharma. She doesn't know what her purpose is. She doesn't know where to go. And she is lost. She goes to the temple and listens to the monks chanting, and she comes back and cries to a friend. She said, I can't tell you how bad it was. I felt nothing. I studied religion and I felt nothing. So she's in bad shape, emotionally, mentally, and he is too. And they run into each other quite accidentally. They keep bumping into each other. And it turns into a truly beautiful, platonic love story. And if you watch it, you will see the Dharma at times of flux, of change, and what we all go through, because we all face these times in our lives. There's one beautiful scene where she is walking through the lobby and she happens to see a group of women who are taking a class in Japanese flower arranging. The Dharma of Zen is beautifully portrayed. The care, the precision, the art, the total involvement of the self in placing flowers. And it's a really lovely moment, and it's a very good definition in a way, or example of what Zen is teaching as the Dharma of Zen, of meditation. That whatever you do, it's wholehearted, and you don't do anything else. You learn to focus and concentrate. But the main thing I want you to notice, if you watch the movie, and Sharon, you will remember it, think of it from a Dharma point of view. The very last scene wraps it up with bowing to the mystery. And you leave the film bowing to that mystery. And it's a beautiful film. So you begin to see life as art, life as skill, life as character, because we are the conductors, the creators of our own Dharma. The second talk that I listened to, and I asked Jeff to send it out with this talk, but I don't think he probably will. By the way, he's doing okay. Is the one I mentioned, the Buddha at the gas pump. And the Dharma that this conversation is on is taken from the Bhagavad Gita. I can't say it. Bhagavad Gita. The Gita. Bhagavad Gita, sometimes I can say it, sometimes I twist on it. Anyway, the Gita. And the two men who are discussing it really know their topic. But the Dharma that is the theme of the Gita is sacred duty. What is our duty? To God, to country, to community, to ourselves? Do we ever really stop and think about how we're relating to these sacred duties? We all have them. They're all individual. We all address them in our own ways. So, if you ever want to study the Gita, I suggest you listen to them. They really dig down into it and how it relates to Christianity, to Buddhism, and to other dharmas. So I thought, well, okay, what are some examples? Think of the words, we've talked about this before, pura vida, pure life. Look at them from a Dharma point of view. How do you take them? What do they mean to you? Pura vida can be, oh, joy and celebration, life is so cool. Or it can be, oh, boy, too bad, so sad. What are you going to do? That's life. The Dharma is both sides. Pura vida is a Dharma statement, an expression. Another example is that of Gandhi. And everybody knows, I'm sure, the story that Gandhi is leaving on the train and the reporter is running alongside and he says, Gandhiji, what is your message? And Gandhi leans out and he says, my life is my message. That's a Dharma statement. Our lives are our messages. Okay? So those are two. There are many, many more. They go on and on. But one of the ways to put our knowledge of the Dharma or our examination of the Dharma to work is to take a Buddhist exercise. It's a teaching, and it's called the Eight Worldly Winds. I love the fact it's also called the Eight Worldly Dharmas, or the Eight Worldly Winds, because the wind, we can be going into a headwind and not getting very far, or we've got a tailwind at our backs and we're zooming. We have gale winds and gentle breezes. Life blows us in all kinds of directions. So how do we apply our spirituality to all the things that the winds can do to us? And he divides them into four couplets. The first one is gain and loss. In our lifetimes, we're going to experience various kinds of gain and various kinds of loss. How will you react? How will you respond? Do you have the equanimity to balance your life if you have tremendous gains? And do you have the poise and the inner fortitude to weather terrible losses? How do you prepare for that? So gain and loss, the first two. The second two are fame and either disgrace or ill repute or infamy, different words. We all know, because we all hear the stories of people who become famous and their lives are so sad. They're not happy. They die tragic deaths. And their celebrity and their famousness didn't save them from suffering at all. In fact, it seemed to heap it onto them. And then you have people, some people used to experience shame, but people don't feel shame very much anymore. But you have people who are disgraced, and their lives can be ruined because of something that they have done or that has been done to them or simply circumstances, and they now are persona non grata. Now, we talked, I think last year, about a um, survey that was done, of a study that was done at Harvard with undergraduates and graduate students as to what their values were and what they wanted out of life. And the two way out front answers were fortune and fame, money and acknowledgement. They're headed for headwinds. Some will succeed, but most won't in one way or another. They won't satisfy those things. So you have gain and loss that you'll have to deal with. You have being known and being unknown. And the third set is praise and blame. Now this is sort of like the second couplet, fame and ill repute. Except fame and ill repute are on the big screen. Praise and blame are on the everyday, all ages, all stages. We experience praise and blame. How do we deal with praise without becoming, what's the word I'm looking for, egotistical? How do we deal with blame without just falling apart sometimes. Can't stop thinking about it. So we have to deal with that. We all know what it feels like. It's very difficult for children to handle both praise and blame. They have to kind of figure it out. And the last two are pleasure and pain. How do we deal with pleasure and how do we deal with pain? So if you sit down and you think about, as in the movie, the situations we are facing in our life, and what are those situations bringing to us? And how do we deal with them and maintain our equanimity, stay on top of it, thrive? It's everybody's thing. So that's really all I wanted to talk about much today, is that the word Dharma, it's a very big word. I wish I could poetically get it across to you, all the things that it means. It was interesting. I will say one thing. Sharon, you and I had exactly the same thing happen to us from Mark's talk. After all these many years of practicing loving kindness and paying attention to the dharmas, something about the way Mark presented dealing with the annoyance of the weed whackers really turned me on, really turned my situation around. They always irritate. Now, I have already known 1,000 times I have overcome irritations and angers and other negative emotions with loving kindness. But for some reason, I had never applied them to the yard man. And that noise just irritates me. You try and talk on the phone or write a letter, and and the way you put it, I suddenly slipped into metta. And the irritation all disappeared. And the wonderful thing about Dharma is when you get it, you get it. That sound will never irritate me again. That irritation has been let go of. And that's how the Dharma leads us down the spiritual path to enlightenment. One last word, and then I'll be done, which is twice recently I have heard the same little phrase used. I'd never heard it before, so it must be a new thing. It's very good. Describing the Dharma as what lights you up. What lights you up? What is your Dharma? It begins with knowing that we respond or react to everything in one of three ways: attraction, aversion, or indifference. And your Dharma is going to, that your purpose in life, your Dharma in life, your goals in life are already within you, and when you touch on them, they will light you up. Everybody, does that make sense to everybody? The same thing that lights up somebody else may not light you up. And so when you're looking, when you are seeking, as in Lost in Translation, when you are looking for your purpose, your Dharma, or when you are trying to figure out how to lose it gracefully, and not knowing what will come after. Will another Dharma appear? Because we have different Dharmas at different times in our lives. Old age, that Bill Murray in the movie is experiencing, and the loss of fame and the loss probably of fortune is a whole new territory. And she hasn't explored hers, and he's losing his. And so they come together. So anyway, we all have this. When you're a parent, you have a sacred duty. When you take a job, just any old job, it can just be an any old job, or you can treat it as a sacred duty. Zen considers washing dishes, sweeping floors, whatever, as your sacred duty of the moment. Life is a sacred duty. So, please take it away.
You know, thank you, Ruthie. That was awesome.
I hope everybody. I think you understand. Right?
Yeah.
It's hard to explain sometimes.
Well, especially, it's the elephant that's always in the room. We're always talking about the Dharma, but what is the Dharma?
Yeah.
How do we connect with something? We know all the bits and pieces of it. We can describe the color of it and how big its ears are, but really, what is it? And something that came to light while you were speaking was the awareness that it was threefold. First, that we were talking about what is our path, and then what is our calling.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're also talking about what is the Dharma, what does it represent in our life. And interestingly enough, what came to mind was that when we are walking and moving in that story, we're following a path. The path is just our life purpose. The Dharma is...
The path is a Dharma spiritual path.
Exactly.
Right.
And then we have our obstacles that we go through. Then we get to the water, and we create another vessel, another Dharma, and that carries us over. And then we get to the third one, which is the land on the other side, which is another Dharma that we step into, and we end up walking on that one. And in each one of those in each of those three segments in the story, there was a suffering. The suffering and the resistance is what helps us to define our purpose. And so we might want to run away and not do anything, but we all know that the minute you run away from something, it tends to follow you. And so these things that you confront, that you move through, is your active Dharma and the process. But there's a second part, and we kind of touched on this a little earlier on the way here, but the second part is once you've established that understanding, you understand the path that leads you to the water, you're able to support somebody else who may also be stuck on that path. But it's by waving, saying, over here,
Right.
come over here. And then as you get to the other shore, build yourself a boat, come over here. So we have the suffering, we have the transition through the suffering, and then we have the awareness that we can move through any future suffering. But as you've done in your life, you've now taken those teachings and those experiences and you offer them as a gift to others, which is also a new type of Dharma for you.
I think the Buddha does not say that there is anything bad about suffering. We want to overcome suffering. But he does not say you want to eradicate it, because most awakening begins with a suffering, with something that gets your attention. And suffering is often described as a breaking open of a forced evaluation. So it's not that suffering is bad, it's a catalyst. But it's one that, like this ship, when we get to the other side, we want to leave it behind. and we will exchange what we've learned to cope with future suffering and other people's suffering, and that's compassion.
One of the things that I learned about suffering is the awareness that something's out of alignment.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, I look at the world around me. The world is not the way that I know that it can be, which means through the suffering, I know that there is a positive, or there's an opportunity ahead of me.
A really good example of that is the word yoga. We touched on so many of these things. The word yoga means union. The word Dharma means to hold together. Teachings of any of the spiritual teachings are in Sanskrit and Pali are called sutras, that which is stitched together. Our word for healing wounds is sutras. We sew them up. All of these words are going to what you're talking about. They're all going to union, to oneness. And the essential thing that we start with is the recognition that on this level of life, our daily lived life, it's dualistic. Everything has opposites, and we have to make continuous choices. But there is another spiritual life beyond that, where all of these separated things merge into one. That's why make us one with everything. That's why it's a universe. All the parts that we have to deal with at the conventional level eventually come together and are one. Are we talking too long? That's one. Let me take a moment. One of the things in this interview is a story I tell all the time, but I never looked at it from their perspective. And it's the story of Indra's net. And Indra, of course, I think everybody knows that story, right? Indra was the great Vedic god, and he threw from the mountaintops. He threw a great net all around the universe. And the net at each vector point, where the warp and the woof come together, at each one of those he placed a jewel. And that jewel reflects every other jewel in the universe. And it is a demonstration of the fact of interconnection. You cannot be unconnected. You can detach, but you are constantly in this web of life. I think it's interesting that when they develop computers, they call them the World Wide Web, because they do join us all together. That's definitely what they do. But anyway, from their point of view, this is how I have brought up the story, is as an example of interconnectedness, interbeing, interdependence. They said that, plus the fact that that vector is the point where the conditional individual you in a conditioned world meets the absolute, the unconditioned world, the ultimate rather than the relative. So we deal on two planes of existence. And our spiritual path is our path to the transcendence into oneness, to union, harmony, etc., etc. But that they meet at that point in this web of life. And I thought that was a really interesting take, because I saw the interconnection But I didn't see that that was the moment where dualism doesn't rule the day, where you are at your Buddha nature, your true nature, where you understand that which you do not understand on this conditioned level. Everybody with me? Does that make sense? It's very hard sometimes to say these things. But I like that story of Indra's net. And all of these things, the laws, the law of karma, of cause and effect, the laws of impermanence, that nothing stays the same, which is part of the story of Lost in Translation, which is the basis of the story. But if we want to wish well to people, we wish that they find their dharmas. We all have them. And if it's not really a matter of luck, it's a matter of looking. And you don't really look out for it. It's an insight, not an outlook. And we begin to understand that if we look at a canvas of beautiful art, the canvas itself is not the Dharma. The painting and what it brings to us is the Dharma. It's the essence of the matter, the heart of the matter. Okay, and now I gotta quit talking.
No, you're on a roll. Keep going.
So there you go. So does anybody here have a sense of not knowing really what their purpose is? Or what the meaning of life is? Or who they are? No?
Eva.
I can't say so.
Yeah, I struggle with thinking like what am I supposed to be doing? What am I here to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I heard one time someone said, it's not what you do, but it's how you do it and how you bring to whatever you're doing that unique gift that you have. So
Well, there's truth in that, for sure. But if it's not your thing, you may be proud of all you bring to it, and you may give it all the skill you have, but it still may not be your Dharma. A great painter cannot be a great musician, and vice versa. They both may work equally hard to achieve that skill, but so it's kind of a matter of giving it all you got, no matter what it is you're doing. And if you haven't found your Dharma in the meantime, when you wash a dish, you just wash a dish with all your might, and it will come. There's a saying, jump and the net will appear. So meditate on it. Present it to yourself. Sit in stillness and quiet. Go to sleep with it as your last thought.
Ruthie, they say no matter where you go, there you are.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you're doing, you'll be bringing it with you. Can you uncover it for yourself? Can you see it within all the things that you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then, some things will spark you, and you go, oh, that lights me up.
Yep.
And you'll start moving in that
Yeah,
direction.
think of it. What lights you up? What makes you happy?
are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, not necessarily. You don't have to answer it. But if you can say, wow, that lights me up. That makes me happy.
One of the things that we learn in the future is our path, or what we're called to do, was always around us.
It's always there. You just have to.
How could we have not seen it? It is so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, somebody goes, somebody asks you a question, or you answer, and you hear yourself answering it, and you say, huh, right. And it's like it was so it was there in front of me, I couldn't see
Right
it.
there, and you can't see it.
So as Ruthie was saying, sitting in quiet meditation or quiet reflection or repose offers you the opportunity to see what's actually occurring in your life. Where are the struggles? Where are you pushing? Where are you exerting too much energy into something? And where are things flowing a little bit easier? There's challenges, but you're actually excited about the challenges. They're like, oh, this is going to be fun. I look forward to this. And that energy draws you. And as Lisa said, wherever you are, that's where you're supposed to be. Or as a friend of mine, one of my spiritual pillars said, if you ever want to know where you're supposed to be, look at your feet.
You're there. You're there. But what you just said about it is like being out of tune. The a Dharma example teaching by the Buddha uses the lute, and it says if the lute string is too tight, it will snap. If the lute string is too loose, it has no melody. Life is a case of tuning, of getting everything to work in harmony. That's what unity is. That's what, so wherever you feel pulled too many ways, there's a loss of balance there somewhere. You can resolve them usually. Or maybe that's this lifetime for you. I've thought sometimes that life is just here to be muddled around in. See what it has to tell us. I do believe that as we get older, we can look back and see patterns. I'm in my mid-80s, and I can see very clearly several, not seen at the time, but now are very clear to me. I won't go into them. But one of the great dharmas in my life that has propelled my life is the dharma of relax and let go. Don't hang on to things that their time is done. Let go. And I taught riding for many, many years, and I had a wonderful, wonderful teacher, a great privilege for many years. And the one thing that I kept trying to get across in teaching riding for over 30 years is control is a function of relaxation. When you tense up, you go out of control. So the way you can become relaxed, whether it's tennis or skiing or riding or whatever it is practice. You find out the right way to perform an action. And then you do it over and over and over again. And somewhere like learning to ride a bike or whatever, you no longer have to think about it. It becomes automatic. And then it's yours. And really that's sort of true of all life. I kind of got off track there. There you go. But it has been a pattern in my life, is trying to hold on to things that needed to be let go of. And having to deliberately give them up and see what comes in place. And here is Jeff's teaching, which fits into the Dharma, which is the 3 steps, which are very similar. He just gives them in more current form: to recognize, to release, and to replace. So once you recognize a negativity, for example, and then you deliberately let go of it, and then you wait and see what replaces it. You can bring that in deliberately too. So now, for the 3rd time, I'm going to quit talking. Here you go. Give us some last word.
A last word.
Mm-hmm.
Based on everything that you've said, Ruthie, The one that comes to mind right away is and thank you for this, is the understanding of Dharma itself. What it means to you. It is not written in a book somewhere. It's not in the teachings or the words of another, but it's about your relationship with the Dharma and how the Dharma and you unite in that blending. And then how that feels as you're moving through your life and the distractions or the suffering that you encounter and how you transmute them into some sort of resource moving forward, which is the third. And then embracing those insights in the Eightfold Path. The Dharma is all of that.
It's everything.
And
actually.
too often we get so focused on a particular thing or needing to tweak this or turn that switch or flip that dial or whatever it is. When we see the Dharma as this complete encompassing vessel that we rest in and experience, life becomes easier.
Absolutely. And I think one of the first and most obvious things that we all agree on is I am not my body. My body expresses my essence. I take care of it. It's my spacesuit. It's how I maneuver in this world. It's to be cherished, but it is not my essence. And the end of the spiritual path, which doesn't have an end, so that's incorrect. But the thing that we're trying to understand and absorb and make part of ourselves on a cellular level is Buddha nature. And that's positive energy. And it doesn't matter whether you call that positive energy, which is light, whether you call it Buddha nature or you call it God, or for the Vedics, Hindus, you call it Brahma, Atman, Anatman, God. It's going to be okay. That's just the way it is. And now for the fourth time, I'm going to shut up. All right, I don't know how we're doing on time.
Is it time? It's time now. It's time for metta.
Oh, it's time. Okay, everybody want to do a metta?
And everybody here knows the metta.
Everybody knows it. We have a little short metta that, thanks to, I don't think I printed it out. Maybe I did. Never mind. We'll go the big one. There's one that is at the beginning of many books. It's very nice. May you have causes for happiness. Okay, everybody, again, a little squeeze, a little shake, a little relaxation. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and a sigh. And know, in the truth, the Dharma is truth. That whatever you meet on your spiritual path, you're going to be all right. And you're moving in the right direction. The wind is at your back. May not seem like it, but it is. So to yourself, for this moment in time, say, may I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease, calm and peaceful. May I be happy. And to the person you love most dearly, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now to your neutral person. Smile. May you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm, and peaceful. May you be happy. And to the person with whom you are in conflict, think of Mother Teresa and say her prayer. Love them anyway. It was never between you and them. It was always between you and God or Buddha. Say to them and mean it. May you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now leaving this personal, identifiable, one person at a time place, put your hands on your heart and think of the whole world, the universe, other universes, billions and billions of people. And know that they are all related to you. Your life is intertwined with theirs. And say, may all beings everywhere on this plane and all other planes be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. And let these feelings of goodwill, of unconditional friendliness, of your inner being being completely liberated from negativity towards other people. Release your hands. Take a breath. If you're at home, you can sit for a long time in this space. But here now, put your hands in prayer position and say our benediction. Go in peace. Go making peace, living gently, loving mightily, and bowing to the mysteries. Love you all. See you next week. Bye for now.